Hi guys, Tom Morrison here, and today we're going to show you how to have a wiggle in your stretches. So a lot of people end up doing exercises that they either see or they're given, and they are way too rigid with them, and they're not trying to think about what they're for, and they're not getting the benefits from them. They're just doing the reps how they think they should look and then just moving on. We're going to give you two common examples and also how they link together as well. The first one is going to be the deep lunge test and how you can go from not being able to pass the test to being able to pass the test. And the second one is the kite stretch, which some people do quite often, but they're not getting the benefits from it because they're just sitting in the position and they're not experimenting with it at all. You can make both of these exercises way more beneficial just through having a wiggle, and you can also apply this concept to any exercises that you're using. So firstly, our trusty deep lunge test. What we want to see is, can we get the elbow down in line with the heel, with the foot fully flat on the ground, with a nice vertical shin, and be able to achieve that position quite comfortably. If you can't and you're halfway up the shin, then that is something that is trackable, and it's trackable progress, okay? So you know where you're at with these boundaries in place. So they're your kind of like rules that you have to adhere to, that the foot's flat, shin's vertical, and where does your elbow get to when you're like that. You test that on both sides, see is one side tighter than the other. And for Jenny, doesn't seem to be. But for others, you may find one side slightly worse than the other. So the premise of having a wiggle is you would be spending more time on the side that feels tighter. So you're actually assessing what is going on with your hips. You're not just trying to pass the test and not just doing reps. So a nice exercise is called a deep lunge rotation, is whenever you just go to where your elbow can get to, and then you rotate yourself up to the sky, and then you do reps like that. It's a really, really nice one. But how you can start to free things up a little bit more. So you've got the thing you can track, you know where you're at with that. So what you can start to do is 4 different things. Jenny could drop down the back knee. So she's only going to focus on the one side that she's trying to improve. From there, that gives her a bit more freedom to start to rock herself from side to side or forward and backwards, or even make little circles with her hips as well. And that's going to start to loosen things off a little bit more. Muscles don't just go forwards and backwards like this. They're able to move in all different ways. So that's what you want to start to experiment with and play with. She can also take away that restriction of having to have the foot flat on the floor. She can rock out to the side and really try and pry open from the hip and see how that feels. And she can also play around with her torso position as well, walk herself away and see, can she get the elbow down whenever she's further away from the leg, and then actually lift it up and then knead it in gradually over time. Just work it like that. Lovely jibbly. And you'll find that you're able to get a little bit more depth there, and then go back to your original strict testing position. Get everything lined up the way it was when you initially tried the movement, and see, are you able to get any more lower, or is it just way more comfortable than what it was? That's still a win, okay? And again, test both sides. So that is your wiggling in a deep lunge. So play around with dropping the back knee, giving yourself a bit more assistance, opening up from the hip and walking the torso away, and then just working yourself down into it like that. So next, we need to look at the kite stretch. I didn't need to go over there at all. So what we want to do is look at the kite stretch position, and how strict we can be with that is to have a nice posterior tilt of the pelvis and being able to sit up nice and straight from the front, so you're feeling the stretch all the way up in the front, okay? So you're getting it at the hip flexor and not just the quad. If you're just feeling the quad, then we want to have a wiggle. We want to see what we can do in that position. So again, what we have is our hip rotation, so you can rotate the hips. Remember, everything's able to move like this, and you can go forwards and backwards as well. And Jenny can then start to play around with the torso positioning, so she can turn her entire upper body to one side. Use the bench to help you. She can turn it all the way to the other side as well. All of this stuff is important. She can even push her hips out to one side a little bit more, push your hips over to the other side a little bit more. What if you're in the club and you've got to do your dance moves and you've got to go all 3 different directions? You've got to do all of that kind of stuff. She can also play around with the front leg. She can bring herself down and get more of a push into the hip from the back. So she can even let your back arch a little bit here. Let it arch, and then see, can you fix it? And then can you push it down further? Play around with these positions. She can put the hand down to the floor as well and try to get even more of an angle, and then gradually try and squeeze her bum as much as you can and maintain a nice stretch in the front, and then use her arms to help her to get back up again to the initial position, and then again go back to your original trackable position and see how does that feel compared to whenever you first started, have you made a difference? And again, make sure you're doing both sides, check both sides. If you're really tight in one hip flexor and not the other one, it can really start to twist you like that, so you don't want that to happen, so you want to make sure you're nice and open from the front. So if one side feels tighter than the other, actually assess that and spend more time on that tighter side. As well, where does this apply? In your deep lunge position, in your back leg. So whenever Jenny goes back to her deep lunge, once you've opened up the front of the hip, you've actually improved the back leg as well. So she'll be able to sink down deeper into your hips and get more extension through the back leg of the deep lunge. And this is how things start to cross over whenever you're starting to build everything and put it all together. Really important to keep that in mind. So if you were doing your deep lunge, say, and you felt like the back hip felt really tight, then you use an exercise to help with the back hip, go back to the first one and then see, have you made an improvement that way. Build on things that way, and you're going to find things working for you a lot faster. So hopefully you can see how beneficial giving yourself a bit of freedom in an exercise can be. Having that bit of a wiggle is going to develop your body awareness way more. You're going to be able to see what you're trying to improve, if you've made an improvement on it, and also where does it apply in your actual training with the exercises that you like to do. What are you trying to improve, and how does that apply to the movements that you like to train? So get yourself down on the floor and have a wiggle.